Good evening, everybody. I think we have a few minutes. 6:50, 8:58. I'm sorry. I'm on East Coast time. 5:58. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to welcome to the March meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Commissioner Cahill? Did I hear a yes? Commissioner Elkind? Are you hearing me?
I am.
Yes. Commissioner Engbarth?
Here.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Here.
Commissioner Green?
Here.
Commissioner Hauser?
Here.
Commissioner Heavenridge?
Here.
Commissioner Lagos? Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner McMillan?
Here.
All right, so Commissioner Cahill is not here? Okay.
I
sorry,
was
didn't hear
first to say here, actually.
you. Sorry about that. And Commissioner Elkin, you're here there also? I
I'm
didn't
here
hear-
also. Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
fabulous. Now I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any announcements? Are there any members of the public?
Chair Doyle, before
Mhm.
you proceed, the announcement, I guess, would be that Brooke Green and Tom Hauser are attending under Just Cause.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for, we had some maneuvering to make sure that we had a quorum in person and allow people to participate via Zoom, given the restrictions of the public laws. So we appreciate everybody trying to get into the meeting, Commissioner Elkind and Commissioner McMillan in particular, and thanks to Ray Holly also, who helped make it possible, and special thanks to Lisa for organizing things for us. Are there any members of the public here?
Sit, if you don't mind. And then
Okay,
you can speak.
you got something that shows me my time, because I know these things are time limited, and I'll look at it. Okay. You gotta wait for the clock. That's the most important part of meetings, right? Righty.
Let me just reset.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you kindly. My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. I want to thank you so much for all you've been doing with the Roseland Library and for the library in general. As a boy, I was able to go to the Santa Rosa Central Library the day after it opened. My grandparents didn't want me to go on the busy first day because it'd be too crowded. With that in mind, when I go there now, it's very crowded. And the dilemma is it's frequently people who are drunk or using drugs and they're out front smoking, big fatties, splivs they're called. These guys aren't paying any attention to the rules. You've hired somebody to be security, and the security person basically is frightened of them. You need to get yourself some security that's not frightened of regular people in those types of situations. The other day, you had the vandalism at the Central Library, and that is the first time something like that's ever happened in my entire life. I mean, we're talking, these people are getting out of hand because they're looking at it like they can just go down there, hang out, get lit up, do whatever they want to do and stay all day long. All right, using up all the facilities, not paying to use anything. And there's got to be a bit of, they used to call it oversight. In the military, they call it the strong stick approach. Those folks need to understand that these are the rules. So please hire some security people that understand the whole situation of not making friends with the people, sitting there in the corner reading your comic book and collecting your pay. You need a security person that goes through there, the Central Library, and makes sure that the loadies get on down the road, get on outside. You're not in here just to crash out and hang out, all right? The library is something for families. It's for people of all walks of life. I don't want to take away from the fact that those people are hurting because they're homeless, a lot of them. I understand that, but they'll understand it if you have rules and that they need to be responsible to be able to have the privilege of being in that public facility, especially on rainy days, all right? And I wanted to double thank you, but then say it's even more important at Roseland because that library basically is smaller than this area here for where the people have to be. And so if you get two drunks in there and one loaded guy over in the corner, you can't really be doing much in that library branch, all right? And it's a spot where there's lots of children. This is really important because those kids, they see those guys rolling around and being all lit up and staying in the chairs all day long. That's not right, okay? So I thank you for all you do. I thank you for the goodness of the fact we got a library and we got a commission that talks about it. And I'll say one other thing. I can't stay for the other important topics on the meeting that I'd like to today because there's another meeting for veterans down the road and I got to be there. But I'm out on time, right? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
DeWitt. Anybody else? I don't see anyone, so moving on to item 4, action items by resolution. 4.1, the mid-year 2023-24 fiscal report and recommended budget adjustments.
Chair Doyle, one
Yes.
quick comment. Because we have 2 members participating under the Just Cause exemption, they need to let us know if there's anyone in the room over the age of 18 with them, and if so, the relationship of that individual to the commission member.
Thank you for the reminder, Jeff.
There's no one in the room with me.
Mr. Hauser?
There's nobody under 18 for sure. My wife is in the other room, in another room.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 4.1.
Good evening. I'm presenting the mid-year report as of January 31, 2024. This report was presented to the Finance Committee at its regular meeting on February 20th, 2024. As part of the fiscal year 23-24 mid-year report, the Chief Financial Officer is to provide any budget adjustments for the Finance Committee's review and as well as the Commission's consideration for approval. The recommendations are illustrated in Attachment A. If we could jump to Attachment A. Attachment A shows the recommendations. It also shows the budget, adjusted budget to date. Oop. Up a little bit more. Okay, the adjusted budget to date, year-to-date actuals through January, and the mid-year budget adjustments, and then the proposed total for this fiscal year. Revenues through January total 22.4 million, which is 51.5% of the budget. The budgeted revenue. Looking closer to the different categories of revenue, property tax received its first installment of its receipt in December in the amount of $14.7 million. And in January, a small receipt of $46,000 for a total of $14.9 million. This reflects 57.3% of the approved total property tax revenue through the year. And we are still expecting the next property tax payment that is scheduled for April 24. This report makes a recommendation to increase property tax by $525,768 for the following reason. The library received official estimated property revenues based on certified values for this current fiscal year from the county auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector. And based on those revised estimates, I'm recommending to increase property tax for a total of $26.7 million this current fiscal year. When it comes to sales tax, there is no adjustment. There are no recommendations for adjustments to sales tax at this time. However, I do want to note that since this report that is for January, we have received February sales tax receipts, which was an improvement and was more in line with our normal revenue cycle. And it started to close the gap just very modestly, an improvement over January. However, sales tax rate growth has slowed down compared to historical year-over-year trends. And we've had that discussion at the Finance Committee. And therefore, I'm remain cautious about the remainder of the months for this fiscal year. But at this time, I'm looking toward May and June that normally experience higher revenues. And given that there was good news in February and there are increases to the other revenue types, I'm not making any recommendations to make any adjustments at this time. But I do caution that, given that there has been a slowdown, that there's always a likelihood that we may experience a shortfall, but that can be absorbed. We'll have further discussions at the Finance Committee about sales tax. Under other revenue types, we have intergovernmental revenues. These reflect grants that we've received, and these grants have come in greater than anticipated. Literacy, lunch at the library, ebooks, and IT grants. And so I'm recommending to increase this category by $186,503 for a total of $650,342. Charges for services have also improved over prior our currently approved budget and also other years. We've made some adjustments to our accounting procedures to better account for the different types of revenue that we receive through the branches. And I'm recommending to increase revenue modestly by $21,000 in this category for a total of $78,500. Interests have been high, and so the library has benefited from that. And so we have seen in our actuals that interests have come in generously. And I'm recommending the budget. Normally, I budget conservatively in this area. And so as you can see, we budgeted 125,000. We've received 472,000. So to bring in line and yet still be conservative, increasing revenues by 355,000 for the remainder of the year. So that is the so in revenue sources, it's a total of an increase of $1,088,271 for this fiscal year, for a total of 44.6 million. So moving on to expenditures, total expenditures are $24.2 million, which is about 51.7% of the budgeted expenditures. Salaries and benefits through the end of January were 14.9 million, which is about 52% of the total budgeted expenditures. I do expect to be within the budgeted salaries and benefits for the year, and I continue to monitor those closely. I will go into more detail about my recommendations for expenditures, but do want to note that cash balances through January for property tax are 19.6 million. Under sales tax is 20.2 million. And I did provide a detail of the restricted cash with a list of bequests for the commission's information. Under the fund balance, as of January 31, 2024, uncommitted fund balances, unaudited, under property tax are 11.2 million, under sales tax 7.7 million. Moving on to the recommendations for expenditures and budget adjustments. Staff is recommending 4 technical budget adjustments for a total of 319,000. I think we could go back. Nope. To that one. Yeah. I think it's the second page, page 2. Okay, there we go. So 319 across divisions and services and supplies, and using the contingency fund to cover these changes so that the overall total does not change the appropriation for the library. The recommendations are to increase. Now we could go into the next page. Increase marketing by $40,000 to cover a TV educational ads to increase library's reach and inform residents about the Sonoma County Library Services. Increasing facilities by $150,000 for security. There's been an increase in incidents at our branches, and our current expenditure pace will approximately be over by 100,000. So we are also adding a full-time security guard to Guerneville branch for a total of $50,000. Increasing accounting by $22,579 to cover the county enterprise resource planning, or which is our financial system for accounts payable transactions, expense reporting, general ledger maintenance, and reporting in general. When this was budgeted, we just had an estimate, which was, early before the year end. And the next is increasing executive services by 17,000 to cover NorthNet library membership, which was not included in the original budget. I believe we did not get the estimate at that time when we were budgeting. Under information technology, we're requesting a rebudget for charges from Verizon that were paid in this fiscal year. And the next one is a net zero adjustment for in capital to just move funds into the correct general ledger account to decrease machinery by 135,737 and a corresponding equivalent increase to mobile equipment in IT. So those are the recommendations for expenditures. There is a resolution that is required to be approved by the commission to put these into effect. I combined these budget adjustments with the Q2 capital recommendations in my next presentation. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Engbarth, did you have your hand up? You're on mute.
Commissioner McKenzie has her hand raised.
Commissioner Engbarth was
Okay.
first, I believe.
I'm back. I have a question about attachment B of the bequest detail. And I'm wondering, there's probably a reason for this, but I'm just wondering why the Johnston Trust endowment doesn't show up on that breakdown.
The Johnston bequest is a separate account. It is listed here under restricted cash, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did. I found it. Thanks.
Okay. And does anybody else have a comment who does not serve on the finance committee? I know that Barbara's got her hand up, but is there anybody who is not on the finance committee who has something to say? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the public comment that we received from the mayor of Petaluma the other day. He had two comments, I believe are on would be on page 14, and one of them was the cash is off by $1, and it's a rounding, not an error, but it's a rounding adjustment. I just wanted to point that out because he wrote to us. And the other thing was, yes, we did misspell bequests on that report. So just because the mayor of Petaluma was looking, I thought I would address his comments. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the staff's mid-year fiscal year 23-24 budget adjustment recommendations?
I
Here-
move.
here-
I'll second. I'll have an urgent second.
All right, I think Commissioner Engbarth was first.
Chair
Um,
Doyle,
yes.
before you take formal action, can you please ask for public comment?
Sure.
We have one
I-
member of the public in attendance in person, and we have one member of the public attending via Zoom.
I'm so sorry, I didn't see them. Public comment.
No public comment.
Okay. Then we will call the question. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Eggbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. And thank you, Myrna. Budgets are changeable during the year, and we appreciate your following it so closely. 4.2 fiscal year 2024 quarter two capital updates and capital budget adjustments.
During the budget process, the commission not the commission, the library staff presented a new capital budgeting procedure. And within that procedure, there are quarterly updates that are presented to the finance committee as well as the commission. And for a couple of reasons. One is to improve reporting and transparency to the commission. And the other is to better track budgets and actual timelines of the projects. And so the commission received quarter one report in November. And this is quarter two. It was presented to the finance committee at its regular February meeting on February 20th, 2024. And supported forwarding the matter to the full commission for its consideration. So the capital updates are illustrated in attachment A. You can jump to attachment A. In attachment A, we have column E, which was the request that was approved for fiscal year 2024. And the total budget at that time that was approved was 8.6 million. According to the new procedure, 1/3 of that is released at the beginning of the fiscal year on July 1. So that was $2.8 million. At quarter one, for these projects that were approved through the budget process and the budget workshop, on quarter one, we requested a release of $200,000. That was your quarter one update. It was approved by the commission. Now at quarter two, we're looking at current actual expenditures through January 25th for $639,000. Column M shows what we're requesting in terms of further releasing of funds, and for a total of $902,309. This is releasing additional funds for Petaluma. We expect the RFP to go out in the next few weeks to start work before the end of the fiscal year. We do expect to spend about 1.6 million this fiscal year through June 30th, 2024. The next release, we're asking to release additional funds for the project manager that's helping track these projects, as well as other small multiple projects for $74,000 and $396,667 for IT for I believe additional biblioboxes. So for a total, we do expect to spend $3.5 million through the end of the fiscal year, and we will still have remaining funds. And this remaining $5 million at this time, we're expecting to rebudget into the new fiscal year. So that's the status of the budget, the projects that you saw during the budget workshop, and we're asking a release of 902,309. Section 2 of this chart listed rebudgeting. So projects that were started last fiscal year and still needed expenditures in the current fiscal year. Out of the projects, the security system has been completed. The estimated was 353,300 in December, and a total of $477,024 was spent on that. It is $123,724 over. But because of the delays in these other projects in section 1, we're able to absorb that. We do not need any further release for the capital improvement plan development, nor any of the IT projects. However, we did complete the study pods, and the invoices came in after the Q1 update, so they're reflected here. And this project is also complete with the 221,000 for this year. So we are asking a release of $221,036 under section 2. You can move to the second page, page 2. Under section 3 of this chart, these are new projects that were approved in Q1, which was augmentation to the air quality projects, the new events area for storage and workspace, branch signage. And for those, we're asking to release $130,000 for the new events area. There is need for compact shelving in that area, which does save a lot of space, time, and it helps with, avoiding injuries and whatnot with staff. The other is the branch signage. We've upgraded to digital signage, is a little more expensive, so we're asking $10,000 for that. And new on here is purchasing a second bibliobus. The second bibliobus was built into our forecast for fiscal year 24-25, next fiscal year. Looking at this project closely and the desire and need for that bibliobus, and it takes like 18 months for the planning and the procurement of it, and it is capital funding, we're recommending that you approve $180,000 in this current fiscal year so that we can start planning. Windsor also, the library has been working closely with the city of Windsor. The city of Windsor is investing in new carpeting in the branch, and the library wants to take advantage of all that work, and so they are, the library is proposing to make improvements to the circulation desk and other modest improvements so that there is a refresh at the Windsor Library for a total of $90,500, which would be our share to the library. So for a request for totaling $410,500 under section 3. So totaling up the 3 sections, we are requesting a release of $1,533,845 in new appropriations.
Are there any questions? I don't see any hands up. Then do I have a motion?
Public,
I'm sorry?
public.
Public comment?
So sorry. Are there any public comments? Thank you, Tom.
There are no public comments.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt the budget adjustments?
I move it.
Do
I
have a-
second it.
All right, then I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes,
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. Then our. I'm grabbing my. All right, that's 4.2. Then we are moving to presentations, correct? Yes, moving to presentations. 5.1, access to technology. Measure-wise sales tax impacts presentation. Here we go.
Good evening. I'm Mike Dahl. I'm the IT manager for the Sonoma County Library System. I've been here for 21 years. 21 years, April 7th was my first day working for the library. Over the course of those 21 years, this library has dynamically changed. It's my pleasure tonight to talk with you about access to technology and how Measure Y has transformed what we can do. I'll wait for them to get to the slides, just a moment. Sorry about that. I'm just so excited to speak with you all tonight. Measure Y has changed how we can deliver technology to our community members. Libraries, I believe, are one of the last institutions in our society where everybody is welcome to come in and use our resources and experience things that they might not have access to in their personal lives. I believe that very strongly, and that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Next slide. One more, please. This slide encapsulates it. We provide resources and technologies to these people so that they can enjoy, learn, invigorate their lives. Technology is a big part of that, especially for me, since that's what I do. Next slide, please. Access to technology really started for us, for me, with access to public computing. With Measure Y's help, we've been able to continuously update our public computer technology on a 5-year cycle, ensuring that our public have access to an excellent experience when they come to our library buildings. Moreover, we've been able to use funds from Measure Y to expand what we can do for learning and education and classes in our community rooms. We put together mobile learning carts with laptops, 120 of them. We're going to continue doing so this year and next year to expand that. We've added lendable laptops, primarily used in the children's rooms. We call them hublets, but that's a way that they can take them to where they want to sit so that they can use it for lightweight computing, educational games, whatever they might choose. One of the exciting projects we've been doing this last year or so is the laptop lending kiosks. Pictured up on the screen there, each device has 12 laptops. We have 102 of these devices and 9 kiosks. At the end of next year, we're going to have one of these in all of our libraries, with the exception of Roseland, which we're holding off for the new building for space considerations. But no more will we relegate people to using our computers where we want them to sit. Our libraries have comfortable seating, windows, People might not want to sit next to everybody. And we can let them use the devices where they want to be. Next slide. And as we know, mobile devices require Wi-Fi access to make the best use of them. So in 2016, 8 years ago, we had about 98,000 internet sessions delivered via our Wi-Fi. Since that time, in 2023, we've more than quadrupled the sessions at nearly 444 sessions. Moreover, with Measure Y, the Friends and the Foundation's assistance, we've added Wi-Fi availability outside our buildings as well. Again, trying not to relegate people to where we want them to use the devices and the resource, but where they want to use our resources. All of our buildings have access to Wi-Fi outside of our buildings so that they can come when they want outside of our hours. Windsor's a good example. They can sit in the park on their device, check the sports scores. Doesn't matter, whatever suits their fancy. And because of the funding that we've been able to acquire and maintain, the speeds at which they can access our resources are 10 times faster than they once were. Just this past year, we concluded all of our upgrades. So we're using state-of-the-art equipment, both inside and outside all of our libraries. Next slide. This is one of our most unique programs, E Street Studios in our camera lending library. In 2018, we formed a partnership with the city of Santa Rosa so that they provide funding to purchase audio-visual equipment with the stipulation that we provide content to the public education and governmental public access TV channel, which we do. Our meetings, your meetings are on the PEG channels. We're adding more and more of our programming and so forth that we've done through the pandemic story times, et cetera. But really what we get from that is access to equipment that they purchase, GoPros, DSLR cameras, microphones, high-end camcorders, all kinds of stuff that are readily available for checkout, which thanks to Bridget Hayes and the creation of her position, which was funded by Measure Y. In 2018, we were able to start lending camera equipment to our public in 2019. Anybody in Sonoma County with a library card over the age of 13 can check that equipment out for whatever purpose they want. One of my staffs checked out a wildlife camera so that he could find out what was in his backyard at night. It was a raccoon. Recently, we've also opened our sound studios. Now people, again, over the age of 13, can come do podcasts, play instruments, sing, whatever they want within them, and then use high-end equipment, Mac computers, the software, and they can produce it. And then they can take that home with them. And at some point, we'll even be able to put it up if they want, so they can be on TV themselves. We have 3 sound studios. If we can get PEG funding for similar programs from the other cities in Sonoma County, maybe we can create more partnerships and have more. So as you're talking with your cities, if that comes up, talk about our E Street Studios, because we'd love to expand it. Next slide. Bibliobox automated lockers. Well, with the pandemic came a lot of changes, and those changes we're still dealing with changes, and we will, how people engage with each other with our library systems. The automated book locker project was, again, people at the time that we started rolling them out in fiscal year 22, they weren't always ready to come back into the library. Or maybe they're a parent and they don't have the time to get to the library on our hours. Again, we're trying to get our resources to them when they want them, when they need them. So now we can have 24/7, 365-day holds pickup. And after this fiscal year, we'll only have 3 more libraries left to do. Petaluma's coming with their refresh. We're actually in the design stage with Rohnert Park Katati for their awning needed for their awning, and Central Santa Rosa. Those will be done by the end of next fiscal year. And then again with Roseland, we're going to hold off until they have their new building due to space constraints. Next slide. And what talk isn't complete without talk of the Measure Y funded Sonoma-Fi Internet Lending Program. We launched it in 2019, and we're one of the largest lending programs of its kind in California. We have over 1,500 devices that people can check out for 3 weeks at a time. And anybody can check them out. Not everybody has access to the internet at home. The pandemic has really illuminated the dire state people are in with the digital divide. We have the means to provide access to those people. And there's other reasons why people might not have access to the internet. I myself, in the last bout of bad storms, we lost power at my house for 3 days. On top of that, my family, we all had COVID, so we were isolating with no electricity, no heat, no internet, and a 5-year-old. We were able to check out a Chrome kit so that we could watch Disney movies via Hoopla on the Chromebook. Now, screen time aside, sometimes it's nice to have a Disney cartoon for a small child to watch. And to put it into perspective, in 1 month, our hotspot program serves up 550,000 downloadable audiobooks worth of data, and growing. It's astronomical how much data we serve. It's hugely loved, and quite frankly, we would not be able to do it without Measure Y. And another avenue of the Measure Sonoma-Fi was in 2022-23, we got a IMLIS grant that we were able to partner with them to provide our Sonoma-Fi Connect kits, ruggedized first responder style kits that we can use at our outreach events. So that, again, we are taking our services to where people are. Through the course of the performance of the grant, we had 79 separate events where we were able to take library staff, were able to take them to the community members to provide partners with internet access, create new library cards, provide instruction, help for new and returning library patrons. Now that that's over, now we have these kits, and with Measure Y's funding for the internet access, we can entertain lending them out to partner agencies so they can make use of them at their own events. Next slide. And it's not always in IT about the e-resources and the computers that we can provide. It's also about the materials that we can move around the system. In 2021, we purchased the central sorter that I think everybody here has seen in the back room. It's an amazing piece of equipment that delivery services use. That staff now can sort 25,000 items a week, and they've reduced transit times 50%, getting the materials faster to the people that need them. Moreover, it helps ease ergonomic strain on our staff that are doing the work. Next slide. And we've also added new alternate technologies for people that need them, whether it's somebody coming in that needs to charge their phone, their iPad. For people that might need ADA assistance, we have book magnifiers now in all of our buildings. I heard a story just the other day that one of their patrons uses the book magnifier to read the back of an audiobook case where the print is tiny and they can't see it. So they can read the back of that case with these magnifiers and then just decide if they want to take out the book or not. They're really cool, and every library has them. And 3D printing, sometimes 3D printing is looked at as a toy or otherwise. 3D printing is mathematical computation to create things. It's bringing that idea of making things into our library. And with Measure Y, we've been able to go through multiple iterations of 3D printers as technologies in advanced, and now we're moving into Prusa printers, which are world-renowned devices. Again, we wouldn't be able to do these kinds of things without the funding levels that we have been able to get with MeasureWise support. Next slide. And you can see our spending in technology, our investments. Back in 2015, again, I said that I've been here for 21 years. In 2015, myself and my colleagues in the IT department, at times it felt like we were keeping the place and the infrastructure together with duct tape and baling wire. It was tough times. And since that time, we've more than quadrupled or even 5 times the investments on a yearly basis in technology. See the bump there in 21. That's when we purchased our sorter, which I just talked about a moment ago. Next slide. Over $10 million in technological investments have been funded by MeasureWise so far. And since I've made that slide, that's gone up. It's 40% of my budget, and I'm quite thankful for it. And the public and the community members that we serve are also thankful. Next slide. Hotspots are very important to the people who cannot afford Wi-Fi at home or who do not have it via a power outage in their house for 3 days. And in the other resources that we provide through the libraries, we do it in large part with the help of the sales tax measure. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks very much, Mike. That was terrific. Any questions, comments from the commission?
Deborah, I have a question.
Sure.
Mike, super presentation, and thanks to you and your team. I had a question about the which you referred to as the 5-year cycle update. I mean, we know technology is changing quickly, and it's great that we have that process built in. It's probably a dumb question, but I'm assuming that all of our computers don't get replaced at the same time, or is it basically 20% a year?
It's a computer cascade. We replace the highest end computers for staff and other needs. And then as those things down cycle, we can move them into other positions where they're not as, it's not that they're not needed, but maybe they might not have the same rigorous need of use. And so we move them into other positions such as the public computing, but then we can upgrade to solid state hard drives and upgraded RAM to continue their use. And by the time of that 5-year cycle is over for a PC, it's pretty much obsolete. And furthermore, we recycle it as well.
So during that 5-year time, the same piece of equipment may be used
Multiple positions, yeah.
different positions, different users and everything.
Yep.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ingbarth.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mike for a great report. It was very thorough, and it's great to see that we're doing all that we're doing in that area. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Are there any other hands up? Barbara, do I see your hand up?
Thanks, Mike.
Mhm.
I'll join the praise for this comprehensive report. Appreciate it. A couple of just quick questions. One, is a session an hour? Computer session an hour?
A Wi-Fi session?
What? Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi is as long as you want. Since it's not taking up a physical resource, you can sit in our libraries and use the Wi-Fi or on a park bench all day. And that would count as one session. It's one connection for X
Wow.
amount of time. It's a lot of usage.
Wow. Okay. And on, I appreciate the schedules, the ones you've got, like the Biblio box that shows which branches and which years. It doesn't really say that under the lendable tablets, but you had mentioned the ones who don't have it now by the end of next year.
Well, the Hublet lendable, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. The Hublet lendable tablets, all libraries have those. With the tab or computer laptop lending stations, excuse me, the only 2 left are Guerneville and Cloverdale, and they'll be installed after the turn of the fiscal year. And Roseland as well. And again, with space constraints, holding off till the next when they're in their new building.
Okay, everybody else has them though
Correct.
now. Okay.
Yeah, it's and Roner Park, for example, it's on the south side of the adult reading room.
Okay. And then, I noticed somewhere I read in some public comment, some issues about the charging stations. I can't remember where it was and whether it had to do with like kind of when our libraries were serving as emergency, places where people were in emergencies and stuff. But do you have any issues with the device chargers and whether it's just sufficient and whether we have other charging capabilities in our libraries, and also whether people are concerned, like could they leave them there and their phones are getting stolen? I think those are the kind of issues that I read about in the public comment.
Yes to all of those things. So we do have this style of charger currently. We're looking at an innovation grant that was awarded to Roxy at Central Library, that we're going to be piloting charging bricks that people can check out from the reference desk. So like this, when you're tethered to it, so to speak, or you're trusting that no one's going to take your device, these will be the bricks you can actually take with you and charge your device to it. And we're also entertaining other modalities, including charging lockers as well. So you see them at like grocery stores and airports where you can get a code. That's a little further down the road, but we do have whether cords wear out, we replace those, and then there is some concern with security of the things, and we're looking at how we can better serve in different modalities again.
Yeah, so we might be seeing some other like budget items in the next budget for additional.
The next budget year or the one further.
Okay.
Again, with technology, as Commissioner Elkind mentioned, it changes all the time, and we are having to innovate throughout that.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for all you do and your
Thank you.
team. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other, I can't see people's hands in the room.
Commissioner
Lisa?
Goldberg.
I
Mr.
got
Goldberg.
something.
Thanks, Mike. I have a couple questions. I mentioned this 3D printer to somebody and they said, you know what's coming. Can people print guns?
No.
And how are there limits on these printers?
The printers are all mediated through staff. Staff review the files, either assist them or print them themselves. And so if something came along those lines, it would not be printed.
And my other question was, so this Wi-Fi that you can take home, is it a laptop? Is it a tablet? What is the physical thing you're taking home to have Wi-Fi?
So you can get a hotspot, which is about the size of a deck of playing cards. We have Chrome kits such as that in the picture there, which is a Chromebook and a hotspot. The new iteration of that are LTE enabled Chromebooks. So it's just a single device, internet enabled. And then up top with the Sonomify Connect, they're like the ruggedized Pelican case, what like a photographer or a first responder might use, and it has a Wi-Fi router inside of it.
And tell us what LTE stands for.
Fast cellular technology.
There we go.
It's cellular broadband.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments? I have a question that goes back to when we originally made the request for Chromebooks. And I know you said that it was an IMLS grant. And so are we still, are our Chromebooks still being funded partially through the state library and matching IMLS funds or LSTA funds? Because I'm in Washington and I want to thank our legislators tomorrow for approving, for making sure that the IMLS continues as an organization.
We concluded the performance cycle on the IMLS grants in October of 23. So that grant isn't concluded. However, we're still using the equipment. It's still in wonderful condition and we'll continue to use it in the years to come. We also got funding through ECF funding a couple of years ago for 100 connected Chromebooks. And those we're lending them out as we speak to people in need for educational purposes.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Mhm.
Any other comments, questions? Any public comment?
No
Thanks
public
so much,
comment.
Mike. Thanks so much,
Thank
Mike.
you. Have a good evening.
Really, appreciate it. And feel better. Let's see, the next presentation is the annual report, 2022-23.
Good evening. So just an update, the state library has still not put in all the comparative statistics from the other library systems. So this is just our data. Usually they do so by now, but I will provide an update when we finally do get those numbers. But this is our annual report for last year. This includes, data for circulation, for library visits and other things. Our reimagining plan,
Is it turned on?
it is turned on. Is it not working? I see. Here we go. So our reimagining process really got kicked into gear in 2022, laying the groundwork for significant changes in 2023 and beyond. Our major accomplishments last year include full implementation of Sunday hours in November of 2022. We opened at all 12 regional libraries from 1 to 5. We also completed our facilities master plan, which outlined $200 million in facility improvements over the next 20 years. We completed our Roseland Library Needs Assessment, which we are using to inform the design build process of that new library. We also launched our fundraising campaign also in November 2022 at Central Library. We completed our staffing study. And then we signed an MOU with the County of Sonoma for Juvenile Hall and now have 20 hours of professional librarian service at that location. And then we had our Volunteer Leadership Recognition Day, the first volunteer event that we've had in many, many years. So these are all accomplishments from last year, and we spent much of the time reestablishing relationships with our partners. So last year was actually a gangbusters year. We hit major milestones in terms of circulation, programming, attendance. This includes 2.7 million physical checkouts, 1.3 million digital checkouts. So we actually met 1 million in Libby in 2022 and 23. We had 151 internet sessions, 151,000 internet sessions, 439,000 searches, and our holdings include 1.6 books, ebooks, and e-audiobooks, and 987,000 digital resources. So this is an enormous improvement in our collections. Here is our circulation. We have an updated chart that I included in your packet. This was from last year. As you can see, we actually exceeded our circulation for all prior years. This is our chart. The blue is the physical, the orange is the digital. And you can compare to 2015, we actually increased our digital circ by 84%. Now, a lot of that is due to the pandemic. You know, when we were closed to the public, people could only do curbside. A lot of people chose to stay home and learn how to use Libby and all of our other apps. And that has just maintained, and people are continuing to use it. And when I do outreach, that's one of the biggest things that people talk to me about is how much they love Libby. And not surprisingly, we're actually 5th in the state of all the libraries, all the public libraries in the state of California. Sonoma County Library is 5th in terms of usage for that particular app. So our physical circulation, our physical circulation is 68%, digital is 32%. Compared to Measure Y, compared to pre-Measure Y, our physical is down slightly, about 10%. But hopefully in the next couple of years, we will surpass our pre-Measure Y numbers. Last year, our on-site programming increased by 88% above 21-22. But keep in mind, some of that was also pandemic related. We didn't have programming, in-person programming during the pandemic. Last year was the first time that we rolled out in person, and we're doing a combination of virtual and in person. Book clubs, for example, are predominantly virtual as it enables patrons to participate from all across the county. Our programming in 22-23 included Latin Grammy award-winning artist Lucky Diaz, who performed at 6 libraries as part of Hispanic Heritage Month. Central Library staff reported a total of 41 attendees for their program, and Roseland, tiny Roseland, had 125 people attending. This kind of program highlights to us how important culturally relevant programming is to our communities. We also had virtual author talks, a teen film festival, a virtual open mic contest. We had lion dancers to celebrate the Asian Lunar New Year, as well as a partnership with Recology for zero waste programming that continues this year, as well as lots of other events like our Lectura Fest at Central Library and LumaCon in Petaluma. Our outreach also increased last year. Our programs, outreach, and attendance really took off, especially our bibliobus visits and attendance. Compared to the prior year, our outreach increased by 56%, and we saw a 27% increase in attendance at outreach events. So these are our Sunday hours, and you can see we have 2 charts. One is average visits by location, and the other one is average circulation by location. Central Library leads in both categories. They're the dark blue triangle, followed by Petaluma, and then Sebastopol and Rohnert Park are not far behind. In terms of circulation, Central was also the highest, with Petaluma coming in second, and Rincon Valley, Sebastopol, and Rohnert Park close together. So this does not cover the whole year because we weren't open on Sundays the whole year. It is just November 2022 to June 2023. In 2022, we kicked off several initiatives for the Roseland Regional Library, including our community needs assessment. That was in concert with the City of Santa Rosa and their consultant. We held several workshops, including a community block party at Roseland University Prep, as well as meetings with key stakeholder groups during the fall of 2022. Group 4's library-focused needs assessment began. And then officials from the City of Santa Rosa began meetings with all stakeholders in the process, including the fire department, Parks and Recreation, the library, and Public Works. And those meetings continue today. The Santa Rosa City Council approved Group 4 architects to do their bridging documents, which are being completed this spring. And funds began to pour in for this project. We received $1 million from the California State Library via Assemblymember Mark Levine and Dame Connolly, $5 million from state funds via State Senator Mike McGuire. We had $10 million allocated from PG&E funds from the City of Santa Rosa, and then $3.5 million donated by the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. That concludes my presentation. Have any questions?
Questions, comments? Barbara, is that your hand up?
It is my hand up. Thank you. I'll just ask a quick question. Something I'm confused about. I love our app. You know, I'm like a big fan of our app. If I go on our app and try to find we'll say a book, it offers me an ebook, an audio book, and a book. How does that compare to Libby? Like going off into the Libby app and ordering something? I mean, how does that affect, I don't know, our statistics? How is that different?
It doesn't, so you can access when you search the catalog, it will give you all of our offerings. If you search Libby, Libby will only give you the offerings that are in Libby. So it won't give you a book, a physical book. It will only give you the results that include, you know, an e-audio book or an ebook.
So they're kind of overlapping,
Yeah.
but
Well, subset. I think it's a
Yeah,
subset.
yeah, it's a
Libby is a subset of everything in our catalog.
okay. Yeah, I don't do e stuff, so I always wondered how that worked. You can do it either way.
Yeah, I mean, you search the catalog and it'll pull up all of the things that we have. But then to actually access the ebook or the e-audio book, you borrow it, but you have to go into the app
Okay,
to download it.
that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Other questions?
Deborah?
Commissioner,
These are great achievements for 2022, 23. What's your biggest frustration during that year? What did you want that you couldn't do? I know.
Petaluma refresh.
Okay, that's a great answer, great answer, yes. Petaluma refresh. And that was primarily due to delays, but the city, they were going after their grant, the Building Forward Together grant, and they wanted to wait to see if they got the funding for that project, and they did. And so, you know, we are actually moving forward. Dave has submitted the permits for that project. You know, we're moving forward. We will definitely see some progress before the end of the fiscal year. As Myrna pointed out in her presentation, we're expecting to spend about 1.6 million before the end of the fiscal year on Petaluma.
Good question, Commissioner Cahill.
Happening.
Okay.
Hush, hush. Any other questions? I can't see hands waving, so Lisa, you're gonna have to help. Anybody else have their hand up?
there are no other hands raised
There are
and
no other hands raised.
no members of the public are wishing to speak.
That was my next question. All right then. Thanks very much. And when you get additional information, will you give us an amended report or just give us the additional information, Erica?
Yeah, so I'll put it in my my library director report when I finally do get access to the other library stats. I know that they're busily working on it because I have seen an overall stats for last year. Just haven't seen. So when I go into our counting opinions, it shows me all of these ready reports, and that includes libraries that are near us, libraries that are similar to us in terms of expenditures, libraries that are similar to us in terms of population. And I only have the 21-22 data when I go in there. I'm waiting for the 22-23 data to be uploaded.
Okay, great. I could just ask Greg tomorrow, right?
Yeah, ask it.
Kidding. All right. Then we are going to, speaking of library reports, we're going to move on to library reports. Would you like to segue into that?
Sure. You know, I do have an update. You know, I did provide a lease update on this report. We did finally get the Guerneville Library lease signed. You know, we had to get the attachment A, which was the physical description and a photo of the location, because we'd never had a lease with them. It took us a little while. We got a blueprint and we were able to make that happen. I'm also still in negotiations with the city of Santa Rosa. I actually met with the city manager a week and a half ago to talk about this process. And, you know, we are making slow but steady process on those leases, and it will be a master lease with the city of Santa Rosa. So we won't have individual leases with each building. It will be a master lease, and then with a provision to add Roseland when that library is completed.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments?
Well,
Go ahead.
about Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
Do you have any feeling of timeline on this? Oh,
About the Santa Rosa leases, is there a feeling you have or a sense of a timeline when you think it could get done, or is it just wide open?
I mean, I definitely think we will have something, something workable, something, you know, in place by, you know, late summer.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Commissioner McKenzie?
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, thank you. Two quick questions. One, I had asked at the last meeting about for a lease update, so I appreciate this lease update. What I was also concerned about or always interested in is this comparison of landlord-tenant responsibility. And I don't know if you intended this report to be that, but at some point in time, if we could have that comparative, you know, who pays for what, I'd appreciate that. And secondly, this is a small question, but I saw under information technology that the staff created a new teen borrower type, which allows more flexibility for teens to borrow library materials, better statistical recording and added staff efficiencies. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, like what we used to have and what we have now for when it pertains to teens?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, hi. Before this, we had two card types, adults and children. And so now we have children's cards, teen cards, and adults. One of the big impetuses for that were technology again. So with the hotspot program, anybody over the age of 13 is eligible, but it was relegated to staff to figure out how old they were. With the new library card type, it's all automated, as is checking out the camera equipment, and the laptop lending devices as well.
This is pretty significant then, having a teen category. Who's in the teen category?
That would be 13 to 17 and 364 days.
Okay.
It also allows for statistical and demographic data, so we can kind of make some analysis about our users based upon that additional category.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Commissioner Elkind?
Commissioner Elkind?
Not a question, but just a comment. I was super excited to see upcoming virtual author talks with Nina Totenberg and also with Madeline Miller. I think that's fabulous. And anybody who's looking for a book to read, I would recommend both Song of Achilles and Circe. They're both fabulous.
Nina was on today. I watched it. Yeah.
We are, so I don't know who's booking. Well, so kudos to Jessica Romero and the team. Thank you.
Any other questions? Wave your hand because I can't see you. Any public comments? Okay,
No public comment.
thanks, Lisa. Then we'll move on to commission and liaison reports. Oh, before we move on, Barbara, just a question. Your question about future agenda items. Could you repeat what you are looking for in terms of spending, in terms of the branches?
Yes, at the last meeting, under agenda items, I had asked for a report on leases and, you know, what were in effect, and also what the comparative responsibility, financial responsibility of the landlord and the tenant were. So we have a consistency in all the leases about that. Is that clear?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
And if it isn't clear, I'll call you. We can get it sorted out. Okay, thanks. Down to the commissioner reports. I don't have a change in my report. Any questions? Any public comments? Moving to commissioner reports. Anybody have anything to add to their commissioner reports? Any questions, comments? Any public comments? Okay, thanks. Down to committee and liaison reports. Anything on the finance committee report, Andy, that you want to add?
Just quickly, I'd like to, first of all, thank Myrna and her team, but also thank the committee, because all of the mid-year budget information and the requested changes to the budget that we approved in this meeting were all reviewed by the finance committee, and a lot of time and effort went into it on the part of the staff and the committee members. So thanks to everybody.
Any questions? Okay, no comments. Any public comment? Don't see any. Commissioner Hauser, anything to add to your foundation liaison report?
No.
Any comments, questions? I don't see hands waving. Any public comment? Okay. And Historic Records Commission meeting. Do you have anything to add, Commissioner Goldberg?
No.
Any questions, comments? Public comments? Okay, thanks very much. Do we have anyone from library advisory boards, the foundation, or Friends of the Library who wish to say something?
We do have a member from the lab in attendance. I don't know if that member would like to say anything right now.
It is no pressure. I believe
If
it's
so,
from
to
Windsor.
please raise your hand.
That's right. Please raise your hand and we're welcome. Welcome to the commission meeting, but no pressure. Do you see a hand raised?
I do not see a hand raised.
All right. Then we will move on to agenda 9, which is a consent calendar. These matters include routine financial and administrative actions that may be approved by a consensus. Any commission member or member of the public may request that an item be removed from the calendar and have it placed under the action items. The commission will approve the minutes of the prior meetings in summary format. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Commissioner McKenzie?
I
Commissioner
had a
McKenzie?
couple of questions about the meeting schedule. I didn't know if we had clarified that October. Just if we could talk about the meeting schedule.
All right, then we'll pull that. Anybody else have anything they want out of the consent calendar? Okay, then we will move to approve the consent calendar and then talk about the calendar. How about that? Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
I second.
And thank you. All right, then I'll take the roll. Sorry, public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Inkworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Havenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan.
Yes.
Great. All right. Let's talk about the calendar. Can you pull that up, Lisa? Your question, Barbara.
It might have been changed. Oh, on the copy that I got, there was a reference to the second Wednesday of the month because of the October 2nd holiday. I didn't know we had a holiday on October 2nd.
Rosh
And
Hashanah, I believe.
is that a new holiday for us?
It's not a library official holiday, but it is a religious holiday, and so there are maybe members of the commission who cannot attend. It's Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, so maybe we just make a footnote that it's not a library holiday or something, I don't know. Anyway, that just kind of threw me off. And I thought it had to do with a staff day being on October the 10th. But that's what confused me.
That's a different item. That's the library closure schedule.
Yes. I know, but, okay, so, and see, that's right, that's something different. The other thing, if you don't mind, Chair Doyle, I just always like it if the people that are appointed to the lab, even though it's slightly out of order, but the people appointed to the lab are called out in the public, in our public meeting, and you might want to mention your appointees. Just, it's nice to hear them, their names mentioned on the record. Thank you.
Okay. We are going to be welcoming Judy Gersel and Eleanor McFarlane. They're both passionate about libraries and are very interested in getting involved with the Windsor Lab. Any other comments? Any public comments? All right, then, do I have a motion to approve the calendar? Commissioner McKenzie,
I'm sorry.
do you want to approve, do you want to make a motion to approve the calendar?
Oh, yes, I approve the calendar. I move that we approve the calendar with my question answered. Thank you.
Okay, great. A second.
I can second.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, no public comment. I've asked for that. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner McMillan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And did I ask for approval of the whole consent calendar? I did that first, did I?
Yes.
All right, fabulous. Thank you. I knew you could tell me, Tom. We don't have any action items by motion. So now we're going to move into discussion. We're going to talk about a consideration of the review of the joint powers agreement under section 6A15 of the JPA. And I'm sure that you have all reviewed your JPA. As you also recall, Commissioner McKenzie and Commissioner Engbarth wanted to bring this before the commissioner, and one of the sticking points is the language that says a 10-year review. And so the staff has done some work on that, as you have reviewed, and has made some a recommendation to us. But part of the question is, we're going to be doing a lot of work this year in terms of education and outreach to the public. And does 10-year review, does that mean that that the review of the joint powers agreement has to be done by 10 years, or is it a review of the 10 years? And so we've had our attorneys take a look at it. And so now it is open for discussion. Now that you have read staff recommendations, and you've read a number of the pieces of work that have been done with it. So I am going to open the conversation, but I'd like Erica to speak up if she wants to give additional background information and introduction to the topic.
So I think Chair Doyle, pretty much encapsulated what we have arrived at, which is, this issue of what does it mean for the review to be done once every 10 years? Does it mean it needs to be completed by August 1st? Does it mean that we should wait for the 10-year period to be completed before we do the review? So that is something that that we're asking you to discuss. We have three scenarios for the review. The first scenario is that the commission appoints an ad hoc committee to begin the review after August 1st. The commission appoints an ad hoc committee to begin the review after the November 2024 election. And that is due to two factors. One is that, our review will be informed by knowing what our future funding is going to be like, especially, when we think about our facilities and our capital improvements. Having, 90% of our facilities and capital improvements are from sales tax, and the ability of the library to do those projects when we don't know, what our funding situation will be impacted. We, as Chair Doyle also pointed out, we all will be very busy over the next several months doing outreach, doing the Speakers Bureau. And, we have to think about our capacity as an organization to perform this work, not just my capacity, but yours as well. And so, this is why we've put together these three possible scenarios. And I, as Chair Doyle said, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
And just before we start the discussion, Mr. Mitchell, our counsel, would you like to add anything, or would you like to wait until after our?
I'm happy to answer questions if any come up, but
Okay.
I think it's been laid out.
Okay, sounds good. All right then. Thoughts from the commission?
Not hands.
Commissioner Cahill?
Commissioner
And-
Cahill?
Yes, I have a fairly detailed presentation, not long, but I'll get to the JPA. I want to start with yesterday's election. Proposition 1, which is the big bond issue, doesn't raise anybody's taxes. There was an official no committee formed. It raised no money. It got $1,000 total contributions. It mailed no information. Just nothing. On the other side was Governor Newsom's effort, spending millions of dollars. Everybody big was on board with it. We still don't know if it passed. 50-50. This is not good. It means that you get a lot of negatives, even if they don't do anything. The second one was Measure H, our local fire one. The polls indicated it would pass with more than 70%. It passed with around 60. So we've got a problem. The only way that we can get our stuff renewed with a 2/3 vote is to have absolutely no controversy that reaches the media. We all have to be in our places with bright, shiny faces. And nothing will upset people more than a vigorous debate over the joint powers agreement. This is not good for us. And so I like Jeff's comment that we can consider 10 years to be 10 years period looking back toward that. But I view that language as the same way that we have the language requiring all branches have leases. This is what I would call aspirational language. It would be nice if all the branches had leases. We got Guerneville out of the way. We still don't have the 4 Santa Rosa leases. And there was a meeting, and I participated in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the mayor and other about this. It's pretty grisly, and I think it'll take a while to resolve. So that's the kind of issue that this JPA review is. So I think that we really should take the administration's recommendation and begin it after we know where we stand, after we have the JPA vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Cahill. Any other
Commissioner
comments?
Heavenridge?
Commissioner Heavenridge?
Thank you. So I agree, and that was a good point to bring up, that we don't want to be distracted when we have a measure coming up. And I also go for the option recommended by the library administration to wait. But I also wanted to know, and I don't know if this is a question for our attorney, but there's no teeth in this. If we wait till a year to do it afterwards, who's gonna slap our hands? Is there any reason to wait? I mean, and there isn't any reason to get it in at a certain time because we'll get dinged because we did that. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is no enforcement provision in the joint
Okay.
powers agreement.
All right, so it's really up to us. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to
Commissioner
clear that
Lagos?
up.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lagos, I think you're next, and then Kirsten Green.
I also agree. I think the option presented by the library administration to wait until after the November 24 election is the best option on the table. I also think it puts us in the best place for any discussions that we would have with our joint powers agents, cities. They're going to come and they're going to ask us, what are the finances? What can the library contribute? What can we do differently? And we won't be able to have those conversations with the cities or with the county without knowing what will happen in November. So it feels like a bit of a waste of time to ask our partners to come to the table to have these discussions when they will ask us questions we don't have answers to. And we will instead have to have a second round of conversations with them after November anyways. So I'd much prefer us to wait until we're in a much better place understanding what the finances of the library are and can have those conversations with the cities and the county.
Thanks very much. Just a note, I believe that the commission does the review. So the partners are not necessarily involved. Of course, they will be involved because we're appointed by them and we'll have the conversations. But I believe that we, the commission, do the review. Commissioner Green.
I agree with Commissioners Cahill, Hebron Ridge and Lagos. I don't think it makes sense to rework an agreement without having all the information that we will have after the election.
Commissioner Elkind.
Commissioner Elkind.
Yeah, I wanted to first acknowledge the work that Commissioner Engbarth did and all of the written comments that he shared. Clearly, Commissioner Engbarth and Commissioner McKenzie have the ability to request that an item be placed on the agenda. I have no issue with that. And although in the written materials, Commissioner Engbarth seemed to believe that the JPA required the review to be accomplished by August 1st. I can't see any evidence of this whatsoever. As I read this, I first of all looked at it in the context of the fact that the original agreement was done in 1975, and this revision was begun 37 years later. So in the spirit of kind of aspirational, it seemed to me that there was a consensus that we can't wait 37 years. We should probably review it every 10 years. That said, certainly while the agreement was being drafted, it would have been possible to say this 10-year review must begin no later than this date and must be completed no later than that date. And I don't see any of that language. So that further tells me that it's a general guideline and not a specific hard date. And if it is a hard date, we can't have a 10-year review if 10 years haven't elapsed. So under no conditions would it be appropriate to begin the review before August 1st. So having said all that, I agree with the other comments that have been made. We have one critical issue in front of this commission right now, and that is to ensure that we pass the tax measure. If we pass the tax measure, we'll be in a much better position to review the JPA with our partners. If we don't pass the tax measure, we'll be facing very, very serious issues that threaten the continued health and effectiveness of the library. And I'd also like to mention that when I saw this was going to be on the agenda, I did talk with 3 of the public officials in the municipality that I serve, and none of them felt a compelling need to review this prior to the election. They all felt that we'd be better served by postponing this until afterwards. So I'm going to add my support to what Dave Cahill said. Thank you.
Commissioner Hauser.
Yes, I agree that I do not see anything in the JPA that requires a specific date that we start or finish this review. It's something needs to be done sometime. I don't see there's any timeline on it. In terms of the comments that were just made about a tax measure, we have not yet agreed to have a tax measure on the ballot. That's just something that we're beginning to discuss. And that's something we need to come to a conclusion about during the next several months if we're going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hauser. And is there anyone, I know that Commissioner Engbarth has his hand up. However, since he has made a number of other comments, are there other members of the commission who have not spoken yet who would like to say something?
Commissioner
Lisa, you're gonna have to
McKenzie.
help me.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Commissioner McKenzie is also part of the background. So if there's anybody else in the room that would like to say something. make an argument? If nobody else has their hand up, then Commissioner Engbarth.
Yes, to keep things brief, since I've already provided information on my view on this, I think that all of these questions and the reasons for not doing the review this year are worth presenting and worth reviewing, but it's not by us. The JPA, the one area that's very clear about is its requirement that any amendment to the JPA, which includes something that comes up a lot in contracts where people will say, this is ambiguous, how could it work or not work, or how you expect me to pursue it. It's very clear in the JPA that that's a decision that we need to present to the members. And I don't see anything in the JPA that gives us that authority. Maybe Jeff does, but I think that we have reasons. Everybody who's talked so far today has given reasons that are good reasons, but I think the place to present them and to get that ambiguity resolved one way or another is to the JPA partners, as the JPA requires under section 12D. And other than that, the information I submitted, I rest on all of that as well. But I just wanted to make that one point.
Thank you, Commissioner Engbarth, and I think that everybody saw that point and doesn't agree that that is unambiguous in the JPA. Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, Commissioner Engbarth was doing all the work on this. He asked me if I was interested in seconding a motion to put this on the agenda, which I readily agreed to. It is important. It's spelled out in the JPA as under governance, specific responsibilities of the commission are as follows. And again, it's not optional. I mean, it's under 15, review this agreement once every 10 years to determine its continuing effectiveness and present written findings to members. So I just feel, because I'm kind of a rules and order person, that it's very clear what we're supposed to be doing. I understand the flexibility possibly in what that every 10 years is. I kind of agree that let's go through 10 years and look back, but I don't know that we want to wait till after the election. I understand this issue is possible if we put it on the ballot, some concerns about, possible, controversial issues. I'm not afraid of that. I don't see these are controversial issues. I think this is pretty straightforward review. How has this worked? How has it not worked? Well, what are we afraid of? I mean, I think the library system has so much to be proud of. We're going to go out and we're going to be doing the public education on this. I can see all three. I could argue all three of these recommendations. I mean, I truly can. I think a reasonable person could look at any of those. But I do feel my ongoing frustration about not having leases with the JPA partners as it gets back to this issue of what's enforceable. This is one of the things that we would bring up in a JPA review. What is the enforceable mechanism here? When you have a JPA partner who won't sign a lease, how do you enforce that? I mean, this is part of the review process, right? So, as a participant in this joint powers agreement, which we are, and it spells out what our responsibilities are. That's why I seconded this motion to at least call the question. Let's have a meeting. Let's decide what we're going to do. It's very clear that it is our responsibility to do it. So anyway, that's kind of how I feel. The tax measure is really not part of this discussion. What we're supposed to review, the JPA, is not about the tax measure. The JPA is the effectiveness of the ability to govern this library. And so, I'm eager to start the discussion. Putting it off till after the election seems like a long time. I appreciate that Commissioner Elkind has asked his appointing body how they feel. So maybe we can all do that. I have just kind of kept my silent until, we had this discussion in public. But, so anyway, that's just my feeling about it. Again, I can understand all three of those, approaches to doing it. My preference, if I had one, would be to get the ball rolling on it, to start talking about what this even entails. Because we haven't even discussed that, and the committee could kind of take that up. So anyway, I think everybody has been pretty clear, though, that, they have a different view than I do. So be it, but at least we've had a chance to discuss this in public, which I think is our responsibility. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah,
Commissioner Cahill and Heaven Ridge.
yeah,
Commissioner, go for it.
I don't think that our lawyer believes that the JPA has to be amended to review it as flexible language. And with regard to Barbara's latest point, I can imagine no greater horror show than to get into a discussion of the legal or practical methods of enforcement among the JPA partners. That's not a thing likely to produce friendly comments. So just pointing that out.
Commissioner Heavenridge.
This may take our historical branch to find out, but the last JPA, did we submit a report after 10 years or 5 years or whenever it ended? And I'd like to know what we did then, and that may give us a direction to go here. I assume that we didn't get it in immediate manner. We took some time to research it and do a report. And that report affected the current JPA that we have now. I believe that happened. My memory is very fuzzy on that, but that would be nice to know and see what comments led to the new JPA now. And that may be beneficial when we talk about this.
I believe we all got a copy of some documentation when Sandy Cooper was the library director, and I believe some of that information is kept in those files, but certainly we can make sure that somebody pulls that for the commission and gives you that information. Commissioner Engbarth,
thank
one
you.
more time.
Yes.
And
All
briefly.
I would say on that is just responding to the historical question, is the original JPA was reviewed starting in 2013, and it was within the context of the fact that there was grand jury reports about the library and the library administration, and findings from that report. Plus, there was citizens' participation in Board of Supervisors meetings about issues with the library at the time. So they formed the committee, and the first document in that, one of the first documents in that package from Sandy is the document that appoints the JPA Review Committee. And
thank you.
About it there too.
Thanks very much. Commissioner Goldberg.
I just want to say that because council does not think there's a legal problem with any of those dates, or any of those timelines, I just see the downside of getting into it now to me outweighs, yeah, it'd be great to deal with ambiguities and making any changes that need to be made and improving it. But the downside of doing it now versus after November, I think is too large to do it now.
Well then, thank you very much for your comment. And I'm going to ask our attorney if I can use the chair's prerogative and move to say that we will begin the JPA review after the election.
The point of order.
Let me ask the attorney first.
I think you can look for a motion to that effect. You have a couple of choices. There could be a motion to table the matter until after the election. You could make that to a date certain, or it could be something that we brought back at a later date.
I have another point of order after Fred's point of order.
All right, Fred, your point of order.
Yeah, mine would be that we did not notice this as an action item on the agenda. And I think that had we noticed it as the Brown Act requires, that would have invited other people to participate in the meeting, but not noticing it as an agenda item for action. I feel at least that we're precluded from acting on it at this meeting tonight.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yeah,
do
I
the,
disagree. I disagree. I think that you have it on the agenda for a discussion of the review. There's sufficient information both on the agenda and in the materials presented that it's pretty clear to the public what the question is. When does that review begin? I think it's appropriate at this point, if the commission so desires, to pick a time when they want the commission to begin the review, or simply to continue this until a date uncertain and bring it back at some point in the future.
and we had another comment.
My point of order was the same as Fred's.
Okay,
I think we're playing fast and loose with the Brown Act. But if Jeff feels it's okay, then it's okay.
And you're asking my opinion, that's my opinion, fine.
Commissioner Hauser.
I feel more comfortable not taking a specific action since we didn't notice it. I agree with Fred. What we can do, and what we should do are two different things, and I think we should not take action when we haven't noticed it as an action item. Thank you.
My recommendation would be you continue the matter to a date uncertain.
It's fine.
Do we need to move that, or?
I think you can. I mean, the other choice is you simply have this conversation come to an end. And
All right.
there's nothing done one way or the other.
All right, well then if there are no other hands, no other comments, then we're going to move on. Thank you, everybody, for your thoughtful comments. I know that this is a very important item, and we of course want to do a review. The question is when. Item 12, agenda items for future commission meeting. Commissioner McKenzie has given us one. Any others?
Commissioner McKenzie has a hand raised.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Well, the one before was actually a holdover from the last time, and I don't know if we're using the protocol that it takes a second, but I had two things that I would like to hear more about. One, since we had a public comment about the security issues possibly at Central, I would appreciate kind of an overall report about our security issues in our different branches. This came up at our lab meeting last month. We just increased our security budget by, I think, $150,000. So I think we'd all feel better to have kind of a report on, what kind of issues we're seeing in our libraries. And the other thing I would appreciate maybe a report from Juvenile Hall, our MOU that our director brought up. If we have enough information about that, it may be too soon, but I'm curious how that's working out. Thank you.
I'd
Both of
like
those things.
second Barbara's motions, and I have an item that I'd like to discuss at a future agenda, and that's how we get items on the agenda, what the process is to get it clarified, especially the part in our bylaws that says that a commissioner with a second can place any item on the agenda with the second of a fellow commissioner.
Correct, but they also say that the director and the chair can determine when things go on the agenda.
That's why I think a discussion of it might be good.
Let's see, you seconded Barbara's. Okay, anybody else have any?
Yes.
I do.
Commissioner
I
Cahill
agree.
first?
I agree with Barbara about a security review. This serious problems at the Roseland branch were brought up at the Santa Rosa lab meeting 2 times ago. And we really got no satisfactory answer about how to improve security out there. There are nuisance violations and possible threats of to patrons. And so I'm perfectly willing to muscle up the operation here, rather than just have people who are really nice wandering around saying nice things to people who are threatening our patrons.
I have to say that this is part of the report probably will be what else is going on in the library world. We are not alone, and this is also a post-COVID reaction. So, but I agree that we should talk about how we can mitigate some of it. And Commissioner Goldberg, was your hand up? Did I hear your voice?
It was me.
Oh.
Green.
Yes, the other G.
Go for it.
I also would like to learn more about security concerns, and I would like to be informed directly if there are big issues, rather than reading about it in the paper. Because if I, for instance, hadn't learned about it in the PD and someone had approached me, I would have not known anything about the issue at Central. So that's something I'd like to include in the discussion.
Anybody else? Any comments? Any additions to future
Commissioner
agendas?
Goldberg.
Commissioner Goldberg.
just wanna say
I thought I heard your voice.
Well, I
Okay.
didn't, but now I do. I just want to say something about security. About 2 weeks after the front door was broken at Central in Santa Rosa, I was driving down that street, and right across the street, somebody with a giant brick right in front of my face was breaking all the windows and doors of the pizza place right across the street. That was 2 weeks later, and I agree, we got to do something about security. It was really scary, and I just hid my head and thought, just don't hit my car. It was right there.
Oh dear. Anybody else? Okay, then our next meeting
Commissioner
is.
Engbarth
Oh, I'm
has a hand
sorry.
raised.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Oh, no, I forgot to shut that off. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, then our next meeting is going to be a budget meeting on March 27th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the Ronan Park Cotati Regional Library. Thank you all very much for this is a really important discussion, and it's not over. So much appreciated, and take care. We're now adjourned. And feeling better, everybody who is sick.
And good luck tomorrow, Deborah.
Thank you. It's going to be fun, I think.
Yeah.